Recording. Right, I am speaking. Hello. You have all these people in the world who will claim to be social media experts, and they'll give all this advice on how to go viral, the audience retention and click-through rate, etc. But then you'll see another creator who's doing the exact opposite thing and seeing just as much, if not more success. And you wonder, well, is everything we're led to believe a lie? Are all these tips and strategies, do they actually work? So this is kind of a brainstorm with my own channel of where should I take my content in the broader context of, are these social media strategies actually valid, and what does that mean for implementing it into your own content? And this is going to be simultaneously while I cook myself some dinner, because man's got to eat. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, do we not have sour cream? No! But we got the salsa. One of the main things everyone always pushes, including myself, is hey, you need to get your average watch time of, let's say, your YouTube videos or TikTok videos higher, because that then means the algorithms are going to say, oh, people like it, and it's going to push it out to more people, which isn't fundamentally wrong, but it's not a unanimous thing. I have videos that have 30% retention, and they push way further than videos that have 170% retention. And you kind of wonder, well, what's determining that factor then? Because they've got similar engagement, they've got similar comments, likes, etc. Yet it seems to be the reverse. And once again, it's not just me, it's quite a few people I've seen that. You see a massive trend now of a lot of YouTubers going for the MrBeast presentation style, where they'll start a YouTube video by going, hey guys, welcome back, we're going to be doing this fantastical thing, and get straight into it. Yet you have creators that do the exact opposite, like the Emma Chamberlains of the world, and there's a couple others that I know that started very softly, very calmly. Just introduce the video in their own tone of voice. And they get the same viewership numbers. If anything, they have a more dedicated fan base because it feels like you're talking one-on-one with them. So when you break down MrBeast style and when you hear him talk on other podcasts, he's always about how can we maximize every single second in the video where there isn't a moment of wasted space. Yet other people will leave huge moments of wasted space. But I think the main difference there is what are you trying to do? If you're trying to create entertainment, you need that high energy and to get people there. And there's also a reason that MrBeast averages 60 million views a video rather than, let's say, only 5 million. Where other people, their whole vibe is, I'm trying to create this peaceful, it's a step back from the busy world and you can just kind of relax and follow me through my day. In a way, they're targeting two different markets, so the presentation style isn't necessarily wrong, but if it's inauthentic, it feels wrong, especially when you just see them copying MrBeast's thumbnails, pretty much copy and pastes, and even copy and paste in the style that he presents it. It's not you. You're only existing because people like MrBeast's style. When things change, when things move on, that's when people are going to get left behind. So really, they need to make sure that they find their own style, they create their own style, and that's how they're going to see some longevity. There's always this debate between content creators of the quality versus quantity. Should you do a MrBeast where you spend 2 months creating the absolute best video possible? Or should you try and create a video every day like Casey Neistat? Or should you do it somewhere in between where it's a dude perfect once a week or so? And I guess a lot of it comes down to how much time do you have and what sort of content are you creating? Mark Rober really went for, I have to build something, so he can't do one of those every week. And he was having a full-time job simultaneously. Where someone like Casey Neistat jumped full into the vlogs, yet you would argue he didn't have time anyway because he was also running a full-time company. So, but the point being, what is that balance there? Because a lot of people argue, especially within the TikTok space, you just want to be chucking out as much content as possible because it's a roll of the dice. The more rolls you get, the more likely it is to land on the number that you want. Versus spending weeks and weeks, months and months putting together this fantastical thing that really has just as much chance of succeeding and going viral as the previous thing, but you spent so long making this, you only rolled the dice once instead of 14 times. So where do I think that balance lies with me and the content that I create? I mean, I create stuff around business, creator economy, a couple of interviews and podcasts here and there, trying to get some more of those and just talking about stuff that I'm interested in day to day. But if you look at the Gary Vee style, he's always talking about, okay, you need to document more than you create, because that's easier. That's something you can do forever, because you're not having to constantly come up with ideas and re-innovate. People come along because they like your journey, because they like the way that you think, the things that you do, and that's why people are there. So it's a lot easier to do that, and you're not having to brainstorm. It's just, oh, this cool thing happened, I will record it, I will talk about it, and then I'll distribute it. And that makes it a lot easier, and you can just add your own fresh take to it, make it your own in that way, and then it becomes a unique piece of your own content that you didn't have to spend the hours and hours coming up with. But then also, that's a lot harder to stand out because there's lots of people doing that. And unless you're a really unique specimen and have a really interesting take on life or had an interesting experience, it's hard to stand out when you're doing that. So how much effort should I put into making these fantastical things? Because you have creators like Eric who blow up to 1 million in a year. And you kind of look at that as like, well, he was doing these crazy extreme things. I'm not willing to do those same things, so does that put me in an inherent disadvantage? Well, there are other people who grow fast as well not doing those things. So how can I embed some of those strategies that they use and really maybe I have to prioritize those strategies more rather than just kind of randomly setting up a camera here and doing something? Do I think more and actually plan the video out? So it's not scripting what I'm going to say, but it's instead, what are the talking points? How am I going to hit it? And how am I going to make sure this stays engaging? But then in extension to that, you want to make sure it's not too formulaic. Sometimes you watch videos and you're like, I know exactly what you're doing, and it feels fake because, oh, you're just recording, you're moving on to something else, then you record another shot, then you move on to something else, and that doesn't feel authentic. And the good videos, while they practically do the same thing, there's another element in there that just changes it enough that it feels real, that it feels captivating and engaging and doesn't take you out of that experience in the first place. So what is that balance in between? I don't know if I quite know yet. I think there still is a place for me doing podcasts and interviews because you can get some really interesting people on, you can learn some stuff. It's just about my focus of making sure I ask the most interesting questions possible. Because a lot of the time when you have the Jimmy Fallons and Kimmels and other generic reporters, they all ask the same questions because they've got 15 minutes and they just have to get the generic answers out. Whereas the really interesting ones, like a Sean Evans and things, they ask the questions other people don't ask. They spend extra effort delving deep and trying to get answers that are actually meaningful and you wouldn't necessarily find somewhere else. And that's what I've tried to do with a couple of my previous podcasts. And hopefully what I'll try and do in the future to differentiate myself so I'm not just another guy on a microphone, but I have the ability to bring in cool, interesting people and get them to talk about their topic of expertise in a way that you haven't really heard before. Because the hardest thing for me when I was starting creating videos is, what is my comparative advantage? What do I do different or better than someone else that I can convey and that makes me interesting? Because I'm not an athlete, I'm not a musician. What do I have that fundamentally people would care about? So it was kind of about talking to some people and realizing, okay, what traits do I have? Because it's hard to find in with yourself. Sometimes you have to consult other people. What did they notice that stands out about you? And one of the points being networking, getting people. So hopefully with the interviewing aspect, bringing those people in, and then being able to talk with them, ask questions is also something I'm very good at. So that is my comparative advantage, at least in the Thinker's Trove interview area. Photography, can I integrate some of that into the content? Well, I've done some of it. It turned out really well, I thought. In my video where we explored the St. George Stadium, like you had Chris Howe, who's blew up because he wasn't just a generic photographer, he also had a corporate business side. So he was the Peter McKinnon that had his own creative agency. So he wasn't just another Peter McKinnon. And that's what made him different and really helps build depth with his audience. So can I document a journey? What journey am I on? What can I bring people on that will keep them for the long term, like that B story? What makes them stay from, oh, this video to the next video? Some creators like Ryan Trahan do it by saying, hey, can you help me beat Dr. Phil in subscribers so he can legally adopt me as his grandson? And then that will help people because they want to come back each time seeing how close it is and wait for that moment that he does finally get to meet Dr. Phil. I'm a bit too low in subs at this point to really make that work, but is there another journey that I can go on? If I start my own business in this creator economy, if I document that, that creates a journey, makes people care, and if they're interested in the same thing, they're likely wanting to tag along, and it means people I watch today, I want to know what the outcome is, rather than be like, oh, thanks, nice tip, and then leave. So that journey, I think, is still something I have to figure out what it is. Is the journey becoming creator? And it's more of these types of videos where effectively my content is creating the content. It's meta in that regard. You had like the Stefamily, Graham Stefan, where they sort of changed their content to becoming more behind the scenes, and they'll show you their discussions between how are they going to make their thumbnails and captions, and oh, we uploaded this video, but it didn't quite get the engagement we wanted, so we're going to change the thumbnail. And you get that real behind the scenes look. So they're reviewing the video on reviewing their previous video while reviewing, like, it's perpetual content. It's the infinite monetization loop. And that's something that can perpetuate long term and isn't constantly having to come up with new fantastical ideas. It just eats your life. It's taking something that is interesting that people want to know about it and broadcasting in a way that hopefully people will care about. I mean, I've constantly taken videos on my phone now that I think about that way and being like, okay, this would be something interesting as counter documentation. Oh, I just sneezing. Oh, this one like the audio. That's hot. Ah, hello. Not for you. You want my dinner, do you? Oh, look, hello. Can you not grab my foot, please? However, none of these rules really apply to someone just starting off making your first videos. That's when you need to get the quantity reps up so that not only can you get practice, There's no point trying to make the best video of your life if you can't even make a video in the first place. Because by making lots of videos, let's say as fast as possible, you make one, you be like, oh, I can change that, then you get to the next one, oh, I can improve on that. And by the time you've done 15 videos, you're fantastic, and then you're ready to make a slightly bigger one, and you can make it be more ambitious each time. But if you start with the ambitious one, you can't even get to the point of making that adequate in the first place, and then it's so bad you don't even know what you're doing wrong, and it just falls apart. So that's why in the beginning, you need the quantity. And in extension to that, the benefit of the quantity is you build a backlog. That's what I was really focusing on. That's why up until now, I hadn't really worried about, let's say, not focusing too much on quality, because I was just trying to build a backlog so that when someone came to my channel, they're like, oh, I get a gist of what's here and I'll stay for a long time, rather than being like, oh, there's 2 videos, I'll just leave. So that's why I was like, yep, it's fine to upload some quantity now and then focus in particular on pure quality later. So I think now the point is a bit of a switch where I've got lots of reps in. Now I need to start making sure the reps are as valuable as possible. And we'll see how that goes, trying to balance that with working freelance and also doing uni full time, which isn't easy. And then also trying to upload onto TikTok and then my Instagram for my photos and then YouTube. It's so much. Do I just need to calm down? I don't know. We'll have to figure something out. But that's the journey I guess you can join me on, right? Figuring this out. That is the thing that you stay for the long run, right? Does Parker survive this journey, or does he collapse, burn out in misery by the time he finishes uni?